What is going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday, NBA Hardwood show. We got 5 games today. Waiting on a little injury news, waiting on some Clippers news, waiting on Jamal Murray, but not the whole laundry list that we usually have. As usual on Tuesdays, joined by Mangone, joined by DC. Mangone, I'll throw it to you first today. I saw you had a nice thread going talking about this NBA slate. You seem pretty excited about it pre-show. I think there's a lot of ways to go. I think it's an interesting one. What are your initial thoughts? How are you doing on this Tuesday?
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this NBA slate. I just think we have a slate that doesn't have all these obvious values, right? And listen, I'm perfectly fine with playing those slates, but it's just a nice breath of fresh air, right? It's a little bit different. I don't have to stare at TJ McConnell only going up $100 every single day. So it's going to be fun. I'm excited to talk about it and break it down with you guys. There's clear chalk spots, and we have to talk about how do we identify these chalk spots? How good are they compared to other ones? There's some chalk that makes a lot of sense, right? Everyone has a price. It makes sense to play certain guys at 3K, certain guys at 4K. There's other times where it's okay, that price is kind of a bit odd, and there's other pivots to go to. So we'll definitely break it down. We'll talk about it. I'm excited to get your guys' takes. We got 5 games, so it's a nice little slate to kind of just go through. And also one of the pieces of news, Jamal Murray, which is a really big piece, that's going to be 2 hours after every game locks. So it's if you try and plan for that, it could hurt you a bit too. So a lot of strategies we can talk about here, and I'm excited to break it down with you guys.
Yeah, it's an interesting one for sure. Before I get to DC, our guy Derek, always in this chat, got 4th in the $3 last night. Awesome stuff to you, Derek. Said looking for first tonight. Good luck, but man, 4th place in that $3. Awesome stuff to you. DC, you got that Chiefs hat going. Haven't talked to you since the Chiefs win. Talk about that a little bit. What's going on? What are your thoughts on this basketball slate, if you want to talk on that too?
Yeah, good to see the best QB and best team in the league back in the Super Bowl where they rightfully belong, putting all the Joe Burrow stands, trying to put Burrow in the same tier as Mahomes. Get out of here. There's a tier 1 in the NFL, and Patrick Mahomes sits atop it by his lonesome. So
DC, what the buy low spot on the Chiefs was when you were wavering on Josh Allen. You were the jumping on the Josh Allen bandwagon. That's what I should have realized. And you jumped back to Mahomes a week later, but that was what I should have realized. We should have jumped.
It was the head-to-head between the two, and I do believe I was right on that particular night. But yeah, quickly back on the Mahomes bandwagon. I very rarely waver from it. Once in a while, I'll jump off for a bit, but I'm always back on board, and it was good to see them pull out the win. And man, I'll say this: I don't know why the Chiefs are underdogs to the Eagles. I get the Eagles roster is much better, but man, you got to take the guys with the big game experience who have proven it. Take Mahomes over Jalen Hurts any day. And I was big on the Eagles over the 49ers. Obviously, we didn't really get to see how that game would play out if they all their normal guys. But based on the start, I mean, you got to remember, Brock Purdy got injured on a play that he got fumbled on, right? They were getting the pressure. So we'll see. But that's, of course, enough football talk probably for one day. I will say this NBA slate, man, you're excited, and I get it. I mean, I kind of like all slates. I think we all do. But there's no obvious value on this slate. I think if things stand the way they are, I think we're going to see ownership really spread out because, I mean, you can make a case for some of these studs, right? I think it's pretty close between Giannis and Joker. I mean, I think Julius Randle's in a great spot. And normally on any slate, but especially a slate of reasonable size like this one, 5 games, you get backup players that are in the starting lineup as your value plays. Today, you might be stuck playing a couple actual true coming off the bench type backups, right? Which you normally don't have to do on a slate of any reasonable size. So it'll be interesting to see if we get any unexpected news. I will say, if we do get news that promotes, a sub 4K player to an obvious value play, that player is going to be massively highly owned because everybody's searching for value right now. If one does emerge, everybody's going to, there's my value for the night, right?
You're not sneaky, DC, right? You're not that guy that's let's say these Clippers get ruled out. If you say
that's where everyone's going.
Terrence Mann's a great value. You're not alone, right? Everyone is going to gravitate towards it. Just to do a really great example, because I've been trying to really watch this throughout the day. When we had Jimmy Butler get rolled out on a pretty recent slate and shooting guard was gross, Tyler Hero ended up being 48%. unless you get the news with like 90 seconds, which Alec Burks starting last Tuesday, I think it was, we had 90 seconds to react. He got to 11%. So like, unless it's really quick, you're not going to be the sneaky guy with the DC. So that's a really great point that I was thinking actually before you even said it.
Right. And if there's, a lot of slates, there's almost too much value and you're kind of trying to cut down guys from your lineup, trying to narrow down the pool. In those slates, you don't need to obviously worry about the ownership on the value plays quite as much. But today, if we do get some that emerge, everybody's going to flock to those same guys.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Do you have any lean DC? I know you're a Colorado guy, Denver, Jamal Murray. Any thoughts on that? Is he play? I mean, because Mangone said, like, he's a huge news questionable. It's him and the Clippers, but that game's 2 hours after, 2 hours after all the other games. So assuming we don't have it, any lean or any thoughts on what you're going to do in that situation?
I mean, I would lean that he does end up playing in this game at home against the Pelicans team, a Western Conference opponent. And he's getting healthier, right? He does play most games at this point. I do think, like with the NBA reporting rules, if there's any chance that his knee's going to act up, I think they're supposed to list him as questionable, right? So they don't have, the late scratch where he wasn't even on the injury report whatsoever. So obviously don't know for sure, but my lean would be that he does end up playing.
Yeah, that's my lean too. I mean, he played 38 minutes last game they played a couple nights ago. He's had some days off. Missed the game before, but played a lot before that. So, yeah, that's our lead. We think so. But, man, like if he was out and you somehow say, like just like yesterday, DeJounte Murray, the Trae Young news, Bogdanovich, all that, like if you save spots for later, Jamal gets ruled out, Bones Highland, Bruce Brown, I mean, all those guys gets massive bumps. So have a plan as always.
Does really get a massive bump title? We don't know. Like, I mean, obviously we saw him be the 10th guy in the other day.
We don't know who gets a we don't know if who does. Bones, you said?
You said Bones. Like, I mean, you assume he does, but like I said, like the other day he was 10th guy in, which was like absurd. Not even saying that's correct. I'm just saying like that did happen. So one more thing to call out there, Title.
On a slate like this, it would be a massive bump with what value we're looking at. But yeah, I agree. Yeah. I mean, there's no slam dunk. I mean, it's just value's tough for sure. Like some people are talking, go Mark Williams, a balance bill, stuff like that. I mean, right now I'm seeing Mark Williams pretty high owned as a value play. So we all saw yesterday with Aaron Wiggins, 50% Aaron Wiggins. He's the value guy. Everyone jams him in. Dude's getting cardio up and down the floor. I mean, Giddey was there. SGA was there. Mark Williams. There's still multiple guys in Charlotte too. So yeah, it's an interesting slate for sure. No doubt about it. Plethora of studs up top, but the value's tough. So I'm excited to go game by game as always, break it down. Let's say hi to a couple people in chat though. We got time on this 5-game slate. We got Robert in here saying, hello, ladies. What's going on? Robert, Natify, Mike Carr, Jordan, Anthony Macy, Michael Nat, Kate Philippe Burner, Bill Miner, Beat Boz is in here as always. Coach, William, Michael Nat, I think I said that. Already shouted out you, Derek. Griderin, we got Garrett, Colin, our boy Tyler's in chat, cracking some jokes. Reezer, Romy, CJ, Space Cowboy, Chunky Blue, Daniel, Anthony, Jetty. Appreciate all of you hanging out with us. All we ask from you on this show, like button, big red subscribe button, helps us out a ton, and we appreciate it. And if you're looking to be a member and you're not a member at Run Pure Sports, right now we got a promo code going on. DC15 gets you 15% off your first month. Saberson is also included in that as well. Golf starting in a couple days, MMA this week as well. Super Bowl, massive prize pools, NBA, of course. So bunch going on. Run Pure Sports. Get in the Discord. DC15 is the promo code. Let's go. Let's move on to the first game of the slate, though. Again, 5 games today. 1 game at 7, 1 game at 7:30, 2 games at 8, and then 1 game at 10. And that is the Jamal Murray news. So first game, Miami Heat, Cleveland Cavaliers, 210.5 total. Cleveland is favored by 4.5. Some injury news on the Miami side. Duncan Robinson's out. Jovic still out. I mean, pretty much Duncan Robinson's the only piece there. Gabe Vincent, Jimmy Butler going to play. Cleveland is healthy, though. Just K. Fallick's boy, Dylan Windler, out. It's not. I'll start with you in this one, man, going. It's not really an exciting game to start it off, especially because it's on an island. Maybe we don't have that Clippers news, and we have multiple Clippers that are questionable. So if we don't get the Clippers news before this game, I think it's an even easier fade. But you can make a case maybe for a couple of these guys. I don't know. You tell me, man, going. Jarrett Allen, D. Mitch, Butler, Bam. Anything in this game you can go to?
Yeah. So I think the Jarrett Allen thing is intriguing. It's not one I'm going to completely ignore. They need to play a traditional big likely, right? You're going to see Bam and Jarrett Allen just play against each other. You're not going to see some like weird small ball thing go on. So you could make a case just because he's going to need to play minutes. And it's more of a price thing, right? It's like, okay, the guy's 6,400, and does he have the upside to get 40 plus? Yeah, I mean, he could. It would not be the easiest matchup, but it's certainly possible. So we'll at least call that out with Jared Allen to start there. One guy I do not mind today is Ricky Rubio, and I'll explain why. So Ricky Rubio's, again, not this guy that's going to go out there and probably put up like 40 DK points or anything like that. But the dude's 3.2K, right? And we need some value on this slate. And I'm not trying to play all the chalk values, right? I'm trying to find some more unique ones. And I think he is a pretty interesting and unique one because I think a lot of people are gravitating towards Jalen Brunson as their point guard today. And that's more spend up. And that gives you a little bit of a different construction than the field instantly right away that way. Also, sometimes what I like to do when Pat Connaughton chalk is the chalk of the slate, I like to look, what guys can I go that a little higher than him or a little bit lower than him rather than just that pivot to give me a little bit of a different build? Well, Ricky Rubio at 3.2K will certainly do that. And I feel like he can't destroy me. And yeah, I'm not expecting him to play 30 minutes tonight, but he's a pretty elite producer, right? And in those 18 minutes that he plays, he could get me 28 DK points, certainly. And I'm not asking him to do that much. And even 15 DK points at 3.2K could get the job done tonight. So I think Ricky Rubio is my favorite option on the Cavs side of the ball if I had to pick, mainly because of the price and the production that he puts up. I certainly think you could make cases for Donovan Mitchell as a stud or Jimmy Butler, but I think there's enough other studs that I'm kind of gravitating towards right now that I'd rather go to. Yes, Jimmy Butler's price tag is good at 7.8K, but I think there's other studs, like I said, I think I can get to that are lower enough owned that I can take chances on if I want to, or other studs that are expensive that I like and already are gaining ownership. So one of the paths I'm trying to really focus on is how can I get off some of these chalk options and find a different route? And I think Ricky Rubio does help unlock that a little bit. But the one thing that you brought up, Title, that I didn't think about was, yeah, I might not have this Clippers news in time, and I might be sitting there thinking, I want this Clippers news. But on the flip side of what DC said, that ain't going to be that sneaky because, listen, when we get that news, everyone's going to gravitate towards it for sure if it goes a certain way.
Yeah, that Ricky Rubio call. I mean, on a normal slate, we're not playing Ricky Rubio, but we've talked about it right now with where the value is. It's going to be 1%. So just before I go to DC, of these 5 games, you look at the total, this game, 210.5. I mean, man, other games, 232, 244, 226, 231. Obviously, totals don't mean everything, but I mean, these two teams are healthy too for the most part. If they were shorthanded, it'd make a lot of sense. I think this by far is the least owned game of all 5. DC, can you get behind a Ricky Rubio? Any value, any studs in this one? What's your approach?
Yeah, you don't have to ask me twice to get convinced on my man Ricky Rubio. I'll jump on the Rubio train with Mangone for sure.
Yeah, the like Rubio train, right? Not the Rubio Dimes one, correct, DC, right?
No, I'm not on the Rubio Dimes. You don't. Come on, let's
just making sure.
But yeah, I mean, I do like the Rubio call. I think he's going to be much lower owned than the other reasonable value options. Probably, like almost certainly going to get like 15 to 20 minutes, right? That's just what he's going to get. My one problem with playing him, and you can do it more on a slate like this where it's 5 games and where there's not that good value, is that he never gets a scenario where he gets to play at 25 to 30 minutes, right? It's just not possible because they won't let him. Whereas other value plays, you at least have the possibility, right? The starter goes down with an injury, foul trouble, blowout, something happens where they get, their top 5% minutes run out and they get 30 minutes. You can't, it just won't happen for Rubio. So that's my only pushback, but I think, that's mitigated somewhat by this slate that we're playing. And also the fact that he's going to be super low owned. And he is a guy that you do occasionally, we saw before he went down with injury last year, he would occasionally come off the bench and put up like 40 fantasy points in 23 minutes, stuff like that. I've watched him play, a few times already, and I do think he's pretty much the same dude right now. Obviously, he's got to kind of work back into it, but like I'm not worried about his level of play or production being down from what it was. So, yeah, I can do the Rubio call. It's kind of a lot of talk about him.
I did see an article today that said that he feels back, which like that's encouraging too, right? So I did that's another thing to point out, that hearing that from his mouth is obviously encouraging. And the reason we're talking about it again is the value's not great today. We're going to get to some other just absolutely off the board plays, but hey, I think it's worth taking a shot on when you look at Aaron Wiggins yesterday, a perfect example, humongous slate, 56% owned, and he absolutely does, right? And he sinks everyone's lineups. Like there's routes where that happens, and there's routes where, yeah, that chalk guy buries you. But we're playing to win a lot of money in the long run, right? We're not playing for just today and to be right about something. Oh, let's just jump on that. We want to make sure we take some stands. And I think taking a stand on getting off that value is not a bad idea today.
Yeah, for sure. As far as the rest of this game, I mean, you could obviously always play Donovan Mitchell or Jimmy Butler or Tyler Hero or Bam Adebayo, but outside of just being an ownership player, right, it's really hard to make a case for any of these guys. Like you said, lowest total on the night by far, two really good defensive teams, two teams that play pretty slow, and the first game of the night on a night where there's not much value. Do you really want to lock in, pretty mediocre plays, frankly, in the first game of the night? Probably not. So I guess first game, Ricky Rubio or bust.
Yeah, man, I did not expect that coming in, but that's a great, because we're talking about Mark Williams right now, and you're talking about Ricky Rubio's minutes. I mean, Mark Williams, and of course, Plumlee goes down or whatever, he could play more, but it's not like that guy's going to be playing 25, 30 minutes too. So Mangone's got a little read on Ricky Rubio. Usually there's no chance we play him. This slate is very unique. We don't have too many slates like this with so many people sitting nowadays in the NBA, usually bigger slates. This is a slate you could play Ricky Rubio. So, Mangone, you get all the credit if it goes well. You might get all the hate if it goes bad, though. But just know he's probably 2% owned right now. I mean, maybe 3% now with this show going on. He's not going to, he's what makes your roster different, and you get on a different value play.
But another point, Ted, I was like, what point guards are you even excited to play on this? Like, that's another thing I like to look at times. Like, I mean, LaMelo Ball in this spot is like gaining ownership. Like, Jalen Brunson is super safe and a good play, but like all the ownership is going for point guards. It's going to him or it's going to Ball, and then maybe like quickly. And the point with that is like, what if the Knicks, I don't know, what if they get blown out by Lakers? I'm not saying it'll happen, but it certainly could. And this Lakers team is now has AD back and they're better. We'll segue into this, but I just think it's a really good spot to try and get different because a lot of ownership seems like it's gravitating towards Jalen Brunson being that super safe play that's going to play 40 minutes and is like 7-9. And I think a lot of people are gravitating to him as their point guard option.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Someone mentioned Kyle Lowry. Yeah, I mean, with how Mangone's talking about this point guard position with this price at 4.7, you land on Kyle Lowry, I'm fine with it as the last piece too, but nothing really excites me in this game, no doubt about it. We're going to get to the next game though. First, another big winner yesterday. Jake Swales finished top 10 the $4 and $1 on DK last night, turned $5 into $850. Awesome stuff, Jake. You love to see that. Derek, Jake, awesome nights yesterday. Hope we get some other RPS logos up top tonight, but wanted to shout out you, Jake. Great stuff there. Let's keep it rolling to a lot more interesting game at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Los Angeles Lakers, New York Knicks, 232 total. Knicks are favored by 1.5. On the Lakers side, Patrick Beverly is out. Austin Reeves is still out. LeBron is expected to play in this one. On the Knicks side, Mitchell Robinson is out, and that is it. DC, I'll start with you. People talking Jericho Sims with no Mitch Rob. 4.6K. It's not like the Ricky Rubio value, but it sure is value on this slate. If you go more of a mid-tier build, talk about Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson. The Knicks side's definitely a lot more interesting. The Lakers, man, with them healthy now, it's pretty tough to get to for me. Talk about it.
Yeah, I'm pretty much off the Lakers here with LeBron, Westbrook, Anthony Davis all in. LeBron priced up, and a tough matchup, right, for the Lakers going into New York here. So Lakers are probably going to be a no for me. They do have one value play, Troy Brown Jr. at 3,400 that I guess kind of throw in the Rubio trash bucket of guys you could play if you need it. But yeah, the Knicks side has got to be interesting. I mean, they're playing a tight rotation. We know Tibbs plays those guys big minutes. You know they're going to be out there. Jalen Brunson, his prices come down a little bit. I had a hard time stomaching when he was 85, 8,600, but back below 8K now. I think he's a pretty strong play at 7,900. And then, yeah, Julius Randle, man, what a beast he is out there, 40 minutes every night. I think a good matchup here against the Lakers team that doesn't play much defense whatsoever. Obviously, that's boosted a little bit by Anthony Davis, but I don't think that's going to slow down Julius Randle much, if at all. So I do like him, and then you can look to value, I think, on this team. Both Quickly and Grimes look like decent value, kind of mid-range type value plays. I probably would only play one of the two, honestly, just kind of choose one together. I don't have a good read on which one that will be. Maybe one of you guys do. And then Jericho Sims is interesting for sure, but man, what a low usage rate he has. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. And I mean, he's pretty close to splitting minutes down. He gets more minutes than Hartenstein does, but those two do split the 48 center minutes, between the two of them essentially every game. And I do think there's a case to be made for playing Hartenstein over Sims. One, you get the 1K savings. I think Hartenstein's a better per minute producer. He gets to play with the backups. And, with having to guard Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook driving, LeBron James driving, I think Jericho Sims has a pretty decent chance to get in some early foul trouble in this one, maybe giving more run to Hartenstein. Hartenstein also going to be the guy out there if it turns into a blowout on either side, most likely. So, yeah, I think I'll take Hartenstein over Sims. And even if you talk about just straight up value centers, I don't really see much of a difference between Hartenstein and Mark Williams. I mean, they're both likely to play about 15 to 20 minutes. I like Hartenstein's matchup better. And I'm seeing, pretty much the same price. And I'm seeing Mark Williams at like 25% and Hartenstein down around 5%. So that's another one where, how often does Hartenstein outscore Mark Williams? It's got to be like 40% of the time at least, probably. So for me, it makes sense to make that pivot. This kind of slate where you got to try to find whatever pivots you can to get on some lower owned guys, because you're not going to be able to do it at all your positions. That does seem like one pretty safe position to do it to me.
Yeah, I think that's a very sharp call, right in that Mark Williams price. And right now we're talking Mark Williams. He's not going to be as high as Aaron Wiggins yesterday and stuff like that. If Clippers news breaks, certain value opens up. But right now, that's what it looks like where people are going. Direct pivot at center, right in the same price range. And yeah, I mean, like you said, we don't usually, or at least I'll speak for myself, I don't try and on usual normal slates, this is a tough matchup, he's going to get in foul trouble, I'll play the backup. On a 5-game slate, when value's tough, though, you need to think of stuff like that. We'll get to the next game with the Bucks and Charlotte, double-digit spread. I don't think you're crazy if you're going to play like a blowout script in that with just how tough value is. So the foul trouble, I mean, AD can get Sims in foul trouble first 3 minutes of this game, and then Hartenstein is a smash play. And even if he doesn't, gets his 15, 20 minutes with a value like this, he can give you 23, 24, which is plenty to be on the optimal. So, yeah, I don't mind that call one bit. And going to talk about Sims, Hartenstein, I assume you'd max one. But, man, Brunson 40 minutes, Julius Randle 40 minutes, RJ Barrett 40 minutes, quickly. Like, these Knicks are tough to ignore. The Lakers, I think you're with us, though. I'm not getting any of them.
Yeah, we'll start with the Mark Williams thing, just because he's a big talking point, because a lot of people are considering going to Mark Williams. And if you play Mark Williams today, you are considering punting the center. So if you punt the center, a great way to flip the build is go up to Jokic, right? Well, we'll get to him and we'll discuss it, but I just want to call that out. And I want to call out that Mark Williams probably doesn't get the blowout run like you'd think. They have shown times where if the game blows out, Mark Williams is in there late in the third, right? And they're not going to run him like 15 to like 18 straight minutes in a row. They'll happily go to Nick Richards. And I'm not saying that's for sure happening. It could happen where if the game does blow out, Mark Williams could close the game. But also Nick Richards could close. We've seen both scenarios. So that is certainly possible. Do not just say Mark Williams is getting the blowout run no matter what. And also, that could not even matter at all. But I think that's something that people will think about today when building out their lineups. I think someone like LaMelo Ball is not someone I'm super excited about today. It's just, I don't know. I don't want to spend that money on him. If you do play LaMelo Ball, I would consider trying to get Giannis in there. And like
we're talking the Knicks game. I just brought up Mark Williams. Knicks Lakers. I just brought up the Mark Williams for. Yes. Yeah, you're good.
That's where I went off the board on that.
You were correct about him. We'll get in that next game, but talking about Hartenstein or Sims, like right in that same Mark Williams range. But you're good. Talk about Knicks, and I assume no Lakers.
Yeah, no, it's my bad. Yeah, so the Lakers thing is interesting. I don't think I'm playing anyone there. You could make a case for LeBron, just because the dude's on fire, but the situation has changed. Like, let's at least call that out. The situation's not the same with AD there, so not dying to play any Lakers. When it comes to the Knicks, and there are some really good plays to discuss here, and a lot of plays that are hitting the optimizer, right? Jalen Brunson, I already talked about it. I talked about he's going to be on a bunch of teams just because he is a really safe point guard play that feels really good on this slate. And you could make the case he's got the upside to get you 50 to 60 DK points too. And it's a very good matchup. I'm assuming you would say that, and I'll pull up the flow chart here because I know people love the flow chart at Run Pure Sports. If you're in the Discord, they love talking about it. Yeah, Jalen Brunson's up high on there, right? He's number one if you had to pick from point guard. So obviously someone that you got to consider playing. One thing I like about Quickly and Grimes is they can slide into that shooting guard spot, which is not my favorite position to roster today. So, and most days I'll say that, but I think Grimes and Quickly in the shooting guard spot are options that I'm considering there, like Brunson, but I really like Julius Randle, just because if you look at Julius Randle, the numbers against the Knicks have been pretty wild. The one argument you can make, though, is, again, not the same Lakers team. Obviously, with having AD there, it might be a little bit tougher defensively because they've clearly shown with AD there they've been better defensively. 10.1K, and one thing that I put in my thread today is I basically pulled up the numbers from StatViews on Julius Randle and what he has done against the Lakers. And if you look at the numbers, basically pre-pandemic, right? Just because that's the Julius Randle that's been on the Knicks and we've had. I mean, the numbers have been crazy against. I think in the 4 games he's played since that time, he's had 49 plus DK points, which that's 2K less than Giannis. And if Giannis goes for 65, that's great. But if Julius Randle then goes for 52, I don't know what number is better. How much do you value that at the 2K? Does that 13 DK points matter? It could or it could not, because based on your construction. So I know Julius Randle's popping a little bit, but I do think Julius Randle is a really good play as a stud to get into your lineups today, and a pivot off of Giannis that I think you want to consider here in this spot. The guy's been an absolute monster this year, so I'm definitely considering him, like him as an option here on this slate, along with those other guys that we talked about. I think good points were brought up by DC on the Hartenstein stuff. I think you can consider that, and I also think you can consider Jericho Sims. He could get into foul trouble, but again, I don't know. There's a lot of forwards that we're going to get to, like between Connaughton, Jericho Sims, Pat Williams. We got those Pelicans forwards that we'll discuss. There's KCP who's in that range. Just a lot of different 4K pivots that you can make. And I think Jericho Sims is one of those 4K pivots that you want to consider. So overall, I think a lot of people are looking at Brunson, Grimes, and Quickly. I think they're all good plays, but I'm going to think about how I play them for sure on this slate. And then Julius Randle is going to be a really interesting option that I'm looking at as some pivot. And if you want to go to Hartenstein, I wouldn't hate it. It's not something I'm getting to yet. I might have to look a little deeper as we get off the show on that. But that's kind of my overall Knicks takeaway. And it's really hard to get to some Lakers because, again, they've just gotten a lot more healthy. The only option I really consider is LeBron as a contrarian spend. And I just think there's other contrarian spends that I prefer, like Julius Randle or Jokic instead.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to play LeBron, no one will ever tell you no. But I think there's other better options up top. Man, I would definitely max one of Hartenstein Sims. And the nice thing about Sims, you also can play him at power forward. But last thing to touch, I got two for you, man. One touch on Obi Toppin quick. I don't think you got to do that. Someone asked about him, though. People were asking about Quentin Grimes. Yeah, man, go and touch on him. I brought him up, I think, briefly. Definitely a good value play, 4-4, shooting guard and small forward eligibility, and plays a bunch of minutes. But then CJ Jones, how many Knicks is too many? Talk about that as well. So Toppin and how many Knicks is too many, man?
Yeah, Toppin I just don't think is getting enough minutes for me to pull the trigger on. Again, he's 3K, but I think there's other, like I said, Rubio I'd rather take a chance on instead. I haven't seen Toppin pop up at all, so I think there's enough pivots in that 4K range at forward that I'd rather not at my forward spot try and do that with Obi Toppin. And then how many Knicks are too many Knicks? That is a good question. I have seen teams that go 3 Knicks and $3, and it's 2 differentiation plays. And I don't know. I'm not dying to do that. I feel like I like the number of maybe going 2. I don't hate that as the number. But I'll say this. I like those Knicks values a little more than the Bucks ones just because, I know they're going to play a pile of minutes, right? Some of those, Bucks ones, they can easily switch guys in and out. There's more of an opportunity for that blowout angle to come into play in that Bucks game, I think, than that Knicks game. I think that Knicks-Lakers game has a better chance of being more of a competitive game. And again, Tom Thibodeau, he slams his guys minutes, right? I wouldn't even hate maybe playing 3 Knicks and then just playing 1 Buck, right? Because that's a way that you're still making that build different. Today, the real focal points are Knicks and Bucks. And that's how I'm going to think about how I'm playing all of them together. But I think you could do 3, but again, I'd really be thinking about how many Bucks I play then. And I think the number 2 is not bad at all. And quick groups that you can make to make yourself different right away. What if you grouped away Quickly and Grimes, right? I mean, I think you could easily do that, or even group away Quickly and Brunson. I don't think you need to do that, but we talked about this on the Up the Lock show yesterday. Thomas Bryant and Rui. We said they're both good plays, but maybe think about grouping them away from each other, right? Because they can cut into themselves a little bit, and you can make a case that guys like Quickly, Brunson, and Grimes, they can cut into themselves a little bit more where, yeah, you're happy with the production maybe of Rui yesterday. He didn't totally destroy you, but did he help you win stuff and win GBPs? No, he didn't. While on the other hand, Thomas Bryant did help you do that.
Yeah, no, good point there. I'll say I think I wouldn't set a max. I think if I had 4 in my lineup and one was like a Jericho Sims or a Hartenstein, one was Quentin Grimes, and then 2 of Brunson, Barrett, and Julius Randle, you can even throw Quickly in there too. I mean, the slate's tough. I mean, the value stinks. You know the Knicks are going to play all the minutes in the world. I'll take minutes on this slate and security. When I'm watching the game, I want my guys on the floor, not on the bench. Even if they turn out like Aaron Wiggins or Dennis Schroeder couldn't buy a shot yesterday, at least they're out there getting opportunity. And, man, you can't say that about all these spots. So, yeah, if I land on 4 Knicks, of course they wouldn't just be Barrett, Brunson, Randall. It wouldn't be all the expensive ones. Yeah. But if you mix in a value, I think that would.
Think about how you play them is like the key title. Like, I don't want to go in and play 4 Knicks and $3 and have one differentiation in tournaments. Yeah. I think that's kind of crazy. So, yeah, I think just thinking about how you play them, I think you could get away with the 4 Knicks, but like, what if you did 4 Knicks and then played $0, right? Well, how many teams are going to have $0 on their team today? I'm not saying that's what you need to do, but that's how I try to really think about it. And like the other day, it was the Memphis and Cleveland with the clear values on the slate, the clear obvious plays. And I had a team that was really good, and it didn't get there at the end. It was up at the top most of the night, and it would have finished up at the top if those Memphis values didn't finally get there. And if the Memphis side blew out, I had 4 Cavs and I had 0 Memphis. And it felt uncomfortable having 0 Memphis. The team still cashed and did well, but I still played other good plays. And that's just how you have to think about how you roster these guys. Don't just go in and play Quickly, Grimes, Brunson with Giannis and Pat Connaughton. You got to think about it a little bit more than just plugging in the top optimal guys.
Yeah, and Mangone does a good job. He has a single entry, 3 entry max content on the site for all sports, but he talks a lot about strategy, flipping bills like he was talking about earlier. So great piece of content over there at Run Pure Sports. DC15, the promo code gets you 15% off. And then someone in chat said, what's AD's ownership? 5% maybe, 4%, somewhere around there. You'll get him single digits, no doubt about that. That is the Lakers and the Knicks. We got 3 games left, about 655 watching, 191 likes. And Mike Carr, right, that's hurtful right now. Very hurtful. Let's go 320. I think that's a very easy number. 320 likes today. We'll get you the plays of the day. Talk it through very in-depth this 5-game slate. We're going to keep it rolling, though. Next game on the slate, 8 p.m. Eastern, Charlotte Hornets, Milwaukee Bucks. Big total, 244. Bucks are favored by 11. On the Charlotte side, Kelly Oubre out, Cody Martin out. On the Bucks side, Bobby Portis is out. DC, I'll go to you to start this one. Talk about Giannis. Looks like probably the most popular spend up if people do spend up. And then they're going to go to some value too. Brooke Lopez, Pat Con, Drew Holiday, Grayson Allen. I think Bucks are a little popular. On the Charlotte side, I'm seeing LaMelo and Mark Williams, the 2 most popular. We talked on Mark Williams a lot. Man, big total. It is a big spread, though. What are you doing in this one?
Yeah, I mean, starting with Giannis, I do think he's rightfully the highest projected player on the slate. I do think, looking at ownership, he's going to be, looks like 2 to 3 times as heavily owned as Joker will be. So just know that going in. But awesome spot here. Like these last couple of games, you've seen it with Bobby Portis out. Normally, I mean, Giannis's best position, both I think as a player and especially obviously for our purposes as a fantasy player, is when he's playing the 5, right? Normally he's got to play the 4 because he starts alongside Brooke Lopez, obviously, and then Bobby Portis comes in, plays the backup 5. And with Portis out, you've seen, if you look at the substitution patterns, whenever Lopez comes out, Giannis gets to play the 5. And I think that's reflected in the last couple games. Rebounds have been good, and shot attempts have been way up. It's almost like when he's playing the 5, like he's like almost forced to shoot the ball because he's just in such a good position the entire time.
No one can guard him. They're too slow too. I mean, he just gets a step. He's already in the paint. It's hard for the opposing team.
And against the Hornets team, I mean, you got to think he's going to be able to get whatever he wants. So I do think this profiles as another really, really strong game for Giannis. You can't afford him tonight. Certainly, it's hard to fit him with 2 studs. I do wonder if playing superstars and scrubs, playing Giannis and Joker together could be
contrarian for sure.
I mean, you got to play the likes of old
Ricky Rubio, Mark,
Hartenstein, exactly. and all that, but you can do it. And I think that could be a decent way to go because both these guys in pretty good spots, obviously. But I love Giannis. The other Bucks, I mean, I don't really want to play a super chalk Pat Connaughton, to be honest. That's just not a play that I'm going to make very often. He's so shooting dependent these last couple of games. He was just okay last start, but the two before that, what did he shoot? Like 5 of 6 and 6 of 7 from 3 or something like that. So yeah, he's going to have big games when those shots are going down. But like even the minutes, I don't think are as guaranteed as they've looked recently, because of course you're not going to take the guy off the floor that's red hot from 3, right? You're going to keep him out there. So I do think there's some risk in Connaughton, especially knowing, I mean, we don't know much, but I think there's a really good chance he's going to be the highest owned player overall on this slate. He can easily get you, 15 to 17 fantasy points at 4,500. That's probably not going to get the job done. So I do think there's a strong case to be made for fading Connaughton in GPPs. I'm not, Brooke Lopez at 6K is fine. Drew Holiday, I think, is okay. But really, it's kind of Giannis or bust here for me. If you're not playing, the chalky value plays in Grayson Allen, Joe Ingles, Pat Connaughton, even Chris Middleton, 5,400 now coming off the bench. I don't love those guys. I think they've got enough guys available in the rotation that their minutes aren't super safe. They're all going to be, it looks like, pretty popular plays on this slate. I think I'll try to go elsewhere and, pick off a single value play from one of the other teams that can get there and match it. So that'll probably be the route I take. I do really like Giannis, though. I think he is very, very safe tonight and has, I think, about as high as floor as you can have, getting to play center minutes and getting up to go against this, pretty terrible Charlotte team. So, yeah, in on Giannis, kind of lukewarm on the other Bucks. And the Charlotte side, I'm not paying $9,500 for LaMelo Ball in this matchup. Even his ceiling games might not get the 55, 60 a ceiling game, I think, for LaMelo Ball. Probably would be good enough at $9,500, but even then, he could still get outscored enough by Giannis or Jokic or Julius Randle or Jalen Brunson that I just can't get there at $9,500. And then, yeah, Mark Williams, we've talked about him at length. You're pretty sure you're getting 15 to 20 minutes out of him. And he's 3,400 and playing pretty well. So I totally get the value play there. I just kind of want to make a pivot, to a guy like Hartenstein that'll be way less owned.
Yeah, good breakdown. It makes a lot of sense. This game's definitely going to get a lot of ownership. Probably the most popular game, talking about both teams when it comes to ownership. Mango, and I got 2 things for you when you're breaking down this game. Touch on Joe Ingles. A lot of people are talking about him. I mean, value stinks, 3.8K, shooting guard and small forward eligibility, play about 20 minutes. I don't think it's the worst. Then touch on Mason Plumlee a little bit. Game theory play, everyone going Mark Williams, one of the more popular value plays. It's definitely gross. It's not like he's going to play 35 minutes. You have a bunch of injuries. He comes off the bench. Who does he come off the bench for? He splits 48 minutes with Mason Plumlee. Mason Plumlee smashes. He plays 35 minutes. Like, what are the routes for Mark Williams to fail? Plumlee big game seems like a spot that could work. Any interest in there? Is that a slate to do it? Talk about this game too.
Yeah, I mean, let's just call this out. He played Milwaukee last time out, and Giannis dropped 12.5 DK points, and Plumlee dropped 48. So,
yeah, they were down 50 to 12 at the first quarter or something, right? That was this game.
Yeah. I mean, it was clearly an outlier, but point being is, I mean, it's certainly possible. It's where everyone just says, oh, I know what's going to happen tonight. You don't know what's going to happen tonight. And I think Plumlee is a really interesting contrarian play. I don't hate him. I don't know if I'm going to get there, but he is popping a little bit for me. And like, if I can find a team with Plumlee that I can get behind, like, he's not one of those guys that I look at the team and I go, oh, I got to keep rebuilding, right? If he lands in there, I'm like, man, he's a contrarian piece that I think can get the job done here. So I don't hate it. They're going to need his size. Could he get into foul trouble? Yeah, sure. He could get into foul trouble, but he also could not. So I think he's a pretty good. Not
to interrupt, but you wouldn't play him with Mark Williams, right? Like, you see Plumlee in your lineup, you see Mark Williams. You're not doing all right. Good.
I'm fine for the game is like competitive, and like they're gonna have Plumlee most of the game. They might even cut Williams minutes down if Plumlee's playing that well. You know what I mean? Like, not even gravitate towards him. So I think he's a pretty good play in tournaments. So I don't mind taking a chance on him as a contrarian piece. I agree with DC on the Giannis stuff. Like, for instance, one thing I always try to think about with every slate is, where are the weak positions, and where are the spots I either want to get different at? Do I want to get different with the amount of players per team? Like, how many are too many? Do I want to get different with spending up, or do I want to get different with spending down? typically I do like to get different at the top. I think I'm going to get different, more so spending down just because I think that chalk is not as great. I'm playing 2 teams tonight. I feel pretty confident I'll have at least 1 Giannis. I don't know if I'll have 2 for sure. I got to obviously look at some stuff, but I wouldn't be shocked if I have 2 just because of how good of a play I think he is in this spot and a pretty good option that I want to kind of gravitate towards. So I like Giannis, but he does have to do a lot. It is a really ideal matchup. Pat Connaughton, I agree with everything that DC said. There's pivots coming up that we're going to talk about. There's already some pivots I've already mentioned. So I'm trying my best to stay away from Pat Connaughton. If he's on one of my teams, don't shoot me for it, right? Maybe I get different in another spot. Don't say that I didn't do it. But I want to get away from him. It's something I'm going to look at. I'm going to go through and I'm going to X him out and see what happens. Maybe I don't like everything that's popping up. Maybe it's just so bad I can't stomach it. I just want to get different in 2 other spots and eat it. So we'll have to see. But yeah, there's a lot of different plays that I like coming up that I want to kind of discuss and break down with you guys. Not dying to get to Brook Lopez. I know he's gaining some ownership. I think he's fine. Fine last piece in. Not someone I'm just jamming in there on my teams. LaMelo Ball, I talked about it before. I don't think he's going to be a spend up I go to. I think there's other spend ups that I prefer. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to get to him. We didn't talk that much about Grayson Allen, but at the shooting guard spot, I think he's a nice little pivot off of Pat Connaughton and could take some of his minutes, right? Also, you could see Pat Connaughton not close. Let's say Pat Connaughton is 0 for 7 from the field. They have enough guys on this team where they could easily play the other options as a close. Let's say Joe Ingles is hot from downtown. Couldn't Joe Ingles replace either Grayson Allen or Pat Connaughton? You assume Drew Holiday, Giannis, and Brook Lopez likely are going to be the closers. But couldn't Chris Middleton close? Like he could. Not saying he will. He's coming off the bench, but I think he could close. So yeah, there are options that I think you could see in a closeout role, and you could see Pat Connaughton lose those minutes, and you could see Grayson Allen. But I like Grayson Allen's opportunity here. I think he's interesting. And one pivot off of Giannis that could be interesting is, I think it's a good if-then statement. If Drew Holiday goes for 50-plus DK points, then what does Giannis do? Does Giannis have a massive game? If the game is tight and close, yeah, Drew could get there in his minutes and Giannis, but I think you can make an argument for Drew Holiday as a really interesting leverage play off of Giannis and off of Jalen Brunson at the same price range. So, DC, I kind of want to get your thoughts on that because I know you like to look at those plays at times. Couldn't Drew Holiday be this play that's not on anyone's radar that goes for 50 or 60-plus DK points? Giannis goes for 55, and that's fine. We're not saying we need to play him at that price. And then Brunson maybe goes for 38, and those just aren't winning scores. And just Drew Holiday leverages them both.
Yeah, I don't mind the Holiday call at all. I mean, he's still got, obviously, with Giannis there, he's secondary, but still a really big role on this team. I mean, just look at the last couple of games, put up 44 and 34, despite shooting 1 of 7 and 1 of 5 from 3-point range. So if he, was hot in either of those games, he would have put up big numbers. The matchup obviously is good. And like you said, I don't think anybody's getting on the Drew Holiday train because, we know people are going to play Giannis and we know people like the value from the Bucks. It leaves Drew Holiday in no man's land, right? Like, because you only want to have so many bucks, most people anyway. And with people playing Giannis and people playing the cheap guys, yeah, nobody's playing Drew Holiday. So I do like that call. No reason he can't put up 45 or 50. Yeah, no question about it. So, yeah, I wouldn't play Drew and Giannis together, I don't think. I think you got to choose one or the other. If you're playing Drew, obviously you're hoping he does, or gets close to matching Giannis. But he doesn't even have to get that close, right? The price difference is pretty significant, different positions and all that. So, yeah, it's a good call there for sure.
Yeah, I think he's, severely overlooked here. And he's not someone that is even, popping up that much for me. But I just think, when you think about the theory behind it, it just makes sense. And again, the Grayson Allen thing, if Pat Connaughton fails, right? Grayson Allen is going to get some ownership, but let's say Pat Connaughton is 60% and Allen is 20%. Well, if the 60% fails, that's already 60% that can't get first place. And that 20%, yes, it's ownership, but it's still leveraging on top of that, in my opinion.
Yeah, great breakdown there, man. So, got a quick question. If you played Drew, because DC said he would max one of Giannis and Drew, and now because I was going back and forth when you guys were talking, I was at first thought I was for sure, but then I was 244 total, 5-game slate. Yeah. If I played Drew and Giannis, I would make sure I probably have at least 2 Hornets, but you can just full on game stack this one, maybe bink OT. I mean, these are how slates. The OT, of course, game stack and all this stuff, but if one game gets to OT, especially this game, man, those extra 5 minutes and you have all those players, that's how you ship everything. You never play for OT, but you got to have game theory thoughts, foul trouble, stuff like blowouts, OT, when you're talking short slates like this that are tough. So what, Drew, Giannis, would you max it? What would you do with that?
I would play them together fine, but if I do it, I want to have some kind of like game stack of this game. And the point being is because of what you said, the blowout angles of other games. Let's say the Knicks game, like let's say the Knicks get blown out by the Lakers, which it can happen. No one's saying it's going to, but it could.
Anything can happen. We saw what Charlotte did to the Bucks. We talked about that.
So if it happens, well, all those Knicks teams sink, right? So then you play those Bucks values and you don't have any of the Knicks values naturally because you're probably loading up on like $4. You're getting 1 or 2 run backs on the Hornets. And then you're getting a piece of like another game. And maybe it's smart in those spots to stay away, like I said, from those other value spots like the Knicks. Again, think about how you're playing them. I think that's super important. And I think the game stack angle can work because let's say 3 of these games blow out. Well, there's only 2 games that actually matter, right? And you could lose rotations in some. And some games, they could still be good games and competitive. But what if it's that Nuggets game that's the competitive game? And all the usage goes to Jokic, and he puts up his normal 60, but Giannis puts up 80. You don't need Jokic's 60 on the slate.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 5-game slate, but if you really look at it, not very many are playing Miami and Cleveland, so pretty much a 4-game slate. No one's really playing the Lakers, so there you got 3.5-game slate. People are going to play both sides of this game for sure, but if you just go all in or overboard it, or you just play 1 or 2 pieces max and get different that way, just a very interesting talking point, things you got to think of on a 5-game slate. So yeah, it's a great game to target, no doubt. Ownership's going to be there. Probably the most popular game with combined ownership. Giannis will be the most popular spend, how it looks like, and rightfully so, as you guys talked about. We got 2 games left on the slate, 260 likes, 660 watching. I set the bar low. We want to get you the plays of the day, though. 320 likes is what we need for the plays of the day. And also, if you're not a member, no better time to join. Head over to Run Pure Sports. Get in the Discord. We got an Up to Lock show today, as always. Keeping it rolling, though. Second game at 8 p.m. Eastern. Los Angeles Clippers, Chicago Bulls. 226 total. Clippers are favored by 3. We talked about Clippers news earlier in the show. Robert Covington, questionable, personal. Reggie Jackson, questionable, Achilles. Marcus Morris, questionable, ribs. John Wall is also still out. Chicago, I mean, nothing really has changed there. They are fully healthy. DC, I'll go to you. If then scenarios with the Clippers, just say 2 of the 3 are out or something like that. They still have Paul George. They still have Kawhi. So it's not like, I mean, we saw it yesterday with Aaron Wiggins. He starts. He's very cheap. He gets you everything you want. You still got to remember, they're playing with absolute studs that are going to have the ball in their hand a lot. So what are your thoughts on that? If certain ones are out, who gets bumps there? Chicago, they're healthy. I'm not seeing much ownership in this game. Could change with injury news, though. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people are going to wait on the Clippers news, but like I still don't feel that great about any of their value plays, even if 2 of these 3 guys are out. Morris and Covington, I think would be a really good scenario if you were trying to get to some of this Clippers value. But when George and Kawhi are in there, like, they're going to do most of the damage for sure. The matchup's not that great against Chicago. If Reggie Jackson misses 2, obviously you can look at a guy like Terrence Mann. But, I mean, 4,800, he's no slam dunk to give you 25 plus. I don't think anywhere close to a slam dunk to get you there. So I think that's kind of is that what people are kind of waiting on to see if Jackson, maybe another guy misses and then plug in Terrence Mann? I think
there's only 1 game at 7, so probably and the game already stinks. So I think everyone's just hoping we get this news, whether it's an hour and a half or the 30 minutes before, since the first game really not fading much. So probably. But
the value plays beyond him are, I mean, who else are you even looking at? Like Nick Batum? I mean,
yeah, it's the gross, the Luke Kennards, the Batums,
Amir Coffey. I mean, these aren't really guys I want to play. I would rather play. The aforementioned
Hartenstein, Ricky Rubio, that's the slate that we're on. Yeah, all right.
Give me some of these early bums that are going to be unowned over the Clippers bums that I think people are going to try to play. I just don't really see it with these guys. Obviously, with the Clippers, you do have the scenario that exists where like Kawhi or Paul George gets ruled out late, in which case then all these value plays would become awesome and you'd be upset that you missed. But right now, that doesn't look like it'll be the case. So yeah, I don't really see myself likely to end up on many Clippers. I think Terrence Mann, if Jackson does miss, he's going to get most of the minutes at, the nominal point guard position. Obviously, Kawhi, Paul George going to do plenty of the playmaking and ball handling there anyway. But yeah, you could look to him. But yeah, I don't love like the Coffees, Kennards of the world. I'm going to try to avoid those guys for the most part myself. Chicago, I mean, just hard for me to play in not a perfect matchup. And with the big three healthy, Vucevic, DeRozan, Zach LaVine, their point guards are all healthy. They kind of rotate those guys. I mean, Caruso, DeSumo, Kobe White, Dragic, like they all play minutes. Just hard for me to get to most of these Bulls guys. So yeah, I'm almost as least excited about this game as I am about the Miami-Cleveland game. So I don't love it here, to be honest.
I think ownership will be pretty much the same, especially if all these Clippers are in. If all three of them are out, people are going to go to Clippers for value for sure. I will say PG does have a better price tag on FanDuel. Ownership will follow, but 600 less, 8-3 on FanDuel, 8-9 on DK. Mangone, I'll go to you. I got two names. So we're talking a little value. Io, DC brought him up a little bit. He's 3-7, 20, 21 minutes. Same thing as the Joe Ingles situation, all of that. I mean, that's the slate we're working with right now. So thoughts on him? Patrick Williams, another one, 4.9K. Don't think he sees too much ownership. Man, he's playing 35 minutes. If I can get 35 minutes at 4.9 on a slate like this, I'll sign up for it. So what are your thoughts on those two? LaVine, DeRozan, Vooch, PG, anything?
Yeah, who were the two that you said before?
Patrick Williams and Io.
Oh, yes, I do want to talk about Patrick Williams. Good thing. So he's someone I really like in this spot. One thing to really note with Patrick Williams, I kind of just pulled up like some recent games just because I was curious. And I mean, I'm not paying too close attention to Andre Drummond and what he's been doing lately, right? But like when they've been in matchups where like you could argue the Pacers, right? That's an Andre Drummond spot that he could easily get in there and pound away at some minutes. You can make an argument that Charlotte, with the way that they have their bigs, right? You put Andre Drummond. They haven't been playing, right? It makes no sense to. Yes, they play Vucevic a pile of minutes, but who then ends up getting some of that backup five role? Well, they bring in Pat Williams for some of that, right? I mean, when you look at the minutes against Charlotte, 12-minute mark in the first to the 122, who comes in for him? Pat Williams at the 122 mark. They are happy going Pat Williams at that small ball spot. And what are the Clippers going to do? Aren't the Clippers just going to shake hands and say, yeah, I'm down for some small ball with Nick Batum and all these other guys they got? It just makes too much sense. They're not going to bring in Moses Brown and Diopte or however you say his name. So is a great Patrick Williams spot. He's a little bit more than Pat Connaughton. I mean, you can have Pat Connaughton. I'll take Pat Williams today. We'll go head to head. My Pat over yours. So I love him in this spot. I think it's a really good opportunity. Yeah, not like a super ideal matchup where you're just saying it's like the perfect spot, matchup based wise, but I think he's going to be a good play. Someone that I want to look to roster. They're going to need his defense against some of these like bigger wing players like Paul George and Kawhi Leonard on switches. So I think Pat Williams, really good play. That you can make a really good case for Io. He's going to need to be out there a ton for his minutes. So I think he's a pretty good option to consider. Some of these other Bulls, I'm not dying to spend up on some of these Chicago options like DeRozan, LaVine, Vucevic. Like they're fine. And would I be shocked if they go out for 45 and be on the winner? Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked, but they're not guys that are priorities. If they're a last guy in and I like everything and I say, hey, I happen to stumble upon this lineup, fine, I wouldn't hate it. If we are trying to create some values and let's say we're trying to really predict how games go, well, if you're predicting a bit of a blowout angle, you can make a really good case for Kobe White to go out there and just chuck. Because typically when games blow out, well, what happens? Typically the second unit dominates as well against the other second unit. And Kobe White could be the guy that just gets hot and, puts up like 16 points, early on and then gets that closeout run when he's playing a team like the Clippers. Just be the guy on the floor to like babysit some of those other guys that are out there, right? When they do bring out maybe an Andre Drummond for the blowout run if they decide to. So I do think Kobe White could be a super interesting contrarian play. It's off the board. It's not my favorite option, but if you're really digging deep, I mean, he can score fast, but he can also sink your lineup. So let's at least call that out. I prefer the Rubio idea way more than the Kobe White thing, but yeah, it's a slate that we're digging for some interesting values, but I love Pat Williams. I think Io is a safer one at 3.7K that you can play that's going to play a lot of minutes. They're going to need him defensively, so I don't think he's a bad option. If these guys sit, which who knows which ones are going to sit, The guy to look at is likely Man at 4.8K as an intriguing option, but I do understand his floor could be rough. I do think Norman Powell is not the worst play, but the problem is DraftKings is 6'3". I think FanDuel is a little cheaper, so you can maybe consider it over there a bit, but 6'3" DraftKings is tougher. I think FanDuel, the price is slightly better. And if we are playing the angle I talked about, right, of, hey, let's say that they are going to go small ball lineups title. Well, who's the small ball center? If Covington is out, Morris is out as well. Well, Nick Batum at 3.9 is kind of interesting, and you could play Nick Batum and pair him up with Pat Williams and say, hey, I'm hoping they correlate together, and they're going to go up against each other a bunch. So that's something to think about as well. But if you want another center option that could be different and has upside, you could make a case for Zubac, but not someone I'm gravitating towards at all. I mean, there's other center options that we've discussed that I like more. So yeah, ultimately, I think the guys I like the most are Pat Williams and Io as interesting values here in this game. And then I need the news on the Clippers side. That's going to be pretty important.
Yeah, Clippers news will definitely be important. Hopefully we get it on the Up to Lock show. There is a chance we do. Nobody breaks it down better. I think we got Holden DC's right here. Holden JSU and Big T on that, I believe. So hopefully we get that news. It's definitely important. See their thoughts on that. And then the last thing I'll touch on, if you're doing 20 entry max in that $3, $4, or if you're 150 max, I know there's dime contests, even 5-cent contests, I believe, on FanDuel and stuff. I would probably make a rule. I wouldn't cross off a Vooch, a Levine, or DeRozan. I would probably just do max one of them. If one of them hit, you hope they're the guy today that goes out for the flame emoji. It's very rare that I see. I mean, now that they're priced appropriately, fully healthy, if two of them are on the winner, I'm just not going to have the winner is how I treat it. So I think put max of one, hoping you get the right guy. I mean, any of them can nuke a slate on this 5-gamer at low ownership. So that is how I would approach that. We got one game left on this slate. 320 likes is what we need for the plays today. So 40 more likes should be easy. Got 675 watching. Last game of the night, 2 hours after the 8 p.m. and all the other games. New Orleans Pelicans, Denver Nuggets, 231 total. Denver is favored by 6.5. On the Pelican side, Zion's still out. Dyson Daniels is out. On the Denver side, Jamal is questionable, and that is it for them. We've talked a lot about Jokic. People are going to play Giannis. He's only 200 more. Yeah, you get Jokic slow own. I don't think any of us will tell you that's wrong. Not going to be low own. He's not going to be single digits, but maybe 15, something like that. A lot lower than Giannis. Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum. Talk about the Jamal Murray situation. What do you see in this one, DC?
Yeah, I think, Joker to me, once you factor in ownership, I think it's pretty close between Giannis and Joker, which one's a better play. I mentioned it often on the show, but like many years in the past, Joker averaging almost 10 more fantasy points per game at home than he is on the road. I actually did look into it a little bit. Big part of the reason is just the favorable assist scoring. Like anytime Joker makes a pass to someone, like he can pass it out on the wing and they like take a couple dribbles and then drive and get a layup to like Aaron Gordon. They count those as assists in Denver. I think he's averaging, at home, 11 assists, on the road, 8.6. And then you got the rebounds are up at home too, which I think is a factor of the altitude. So I do believe in the home road splits. I'm more likely to play Joker at home. I'll probably have some exposure tonight. One way I think you can build interestingly for this slate, you could play like Joker and Jamal and then maybe one of the cheaper Pelican in there on your guard forward utility spots. And then, you do have some flexibility to move your guys around because you've got all three of those positions available. If Jamal ends up sitting, obviously that elevates guys like Bones, Bruce Brown. You could go to a CJ McCollum if you wanted to, as well as kind of a swap. So I do think that leaves yourself some flexibility because I don't think anyone's going to play Jamal Murray tonight, but the dude has been really, really good. I mean, just look at the game log for him. 37, 43, 46, 58, 51, 41. I know Joker missed some of those games, but the dude is playing well. They haven't played in they've had a couple nights off, and they don't play again until Thursday, I believe. So they got another night off after this. I think he's going to be out there. I just think they kind of list him as a precautionary. So I think he's an interesting play at 7,500. I don't even mind pairing him with Joker as a contrarian build. And then on the Pelican side, it does get a little more complicated with Brandon Ingram back. We'll see how many minutes he's able to go. But I still think McCollum is in play, certainly at 8,200. And then I like Larry Nance a little bit in this game. The last time these two teams played, Valanciunas only got 18 minutes in that game. It was a 1-point game. He was in a little bit of foul trouble, but I just don't know if Valanciunas can keep up with Joker, especially at altitude. He's a guy that kind of, you see him like get winded out there early, sometimes relatively quickly. In this game, trying to guard Joker on every possession, games getting up and down the floor at altitude. I think that fits Larry Nance better. And I think Nance actually might have Valanciunas is obviously the better defender in general, but Joker is like kind of a one-of-a-kind player where I think you might prefer Nance's mobility over Valanciunas' size, perhaps. So, yeah, I think the Nance, another kind of sneaky value play at 4,100. He's going to get like at minimum 18 minutes, right? But we've seen several times recently where those minutes push toward 30 at 4,100 in a kind of a pace-up game here. I think he's a sneaky value play as well.
Yeah, I like that call. I was my buddies were telling me a couple of days ago. I don't doubt you guys have heard this, but there was, because you were mentioning home road splits and the assists and the scorekeeper. I don't know, Mango maybe saw, but Jaren Jackson. Yeah. There was a red. You went through all that. I guess it was proven that only 3 of them, some Kevin O'Connell or some NBA guy, went and watched every single one in slow motion. I guess there's only 3, so it wasn't nearly like the Reddit thread. But for the people that didn't hear it out there, people were saying that the Grizzlies stat guys were just adding blocks to Jaren Jackson so he can win Defensive Player of the Year and a lot of fraudulent stuff. Again, like someone in the NBA looked at every single one, didn't look to be that serious. But man, when I was told that, I was like, it's still going on in 2023. People think they can get away with this stuff. Yeah, well, I mean, it turned out not to be as true.
Blocks seem like they would be like the hardest stat to.
I mean, if you don't get a hand on it, you're scared.
Yeah, exactly. But like assists are pretty damn subjective. They really are.
They are. No. You can definitely like. There's sometimes I look and I'm like, that's not an assist, like, or that should have been an assist. Why didn't I get my points? This is crap. So like, I agree with DC on this. I think it makes sense, especially if he's battling for that triple double, right? Late in that game, like, yeah, I could see them just tossing him an assist.
I mean, just imagine if you're the Denver Nuggets official scorer, you're damn right you're giving Jokic an assist every chance you get. Of course you are.
No, for sure. It was just something, I don't know who heard about that, and I had to dig into it a little bit, but I guess it's not true too much. It's very interesting stuff. Someone in the chat said if Murray plays, or if Murray doesn't play, who starts? Yeah, Bruce Brown will start 2 hours after lock, though. Probably won't have that news till all the other games lock. Mango, someone else also asked, like, what you think about Brandon Ingram's minutes. On the 28th, when he played last, he played 28, shot the ball 22 times, didn't play against the Bucks. I mean, I think he can play 33 minutes, something like that in this game. I wouldn't be too worried about the minutes. What are your thoughts on that? Talk about Jokic, Larry Nance. What does Jamal Murray news do? Are you waiting for it? Bunch of stuff in this game. Break it down.
Yeah, we're only at 304 likes. We need 16 to get those plays of the day. And let me tell you, I did the Up the Lock show with Thalik yesterday, and he was furious. The show went late, so I don't want to make him furious. We're already getting over time, so you better hit those damn likes because Thalik is not happy right now. People don't like that I did a thread today in the RPS chat. I mean, we gotta hit some likes to make us feel like we're justifying this. So, but we'll talk about Jokic real quick. I love him as a contrarian spend. I don't think many are going to go to him. You could do the Giannis and Jokic thing if you want it. I don't know if I'm going to get to that build, but we'll see. I think I'm going to try my best, though, to get one Jokic on my teams tonight. I do agree with a lot of what DC said. I did pull up the numbers of Jokic versus Valanciunas, basically throughout time, right? And I'm not going to give you every single number, but let's go from 2019, it's got a 65.5, 49.75, 62.75, 53, 72, 58, 95, 71, and 59, which those are typical Jokic type numbers, but he can clearly cook Valanciunas, right? He's clearly had his time against him. He can get the job done. So I like spending on him as an option here today. So I like Jokic. Think he's going to be lower owned. I want to get some exposure to him. So think he's a really good option. Not dying to get to all these other plays on the Nugget side. I'm not planning for the Jamal Murray news. If I get it in time, I'll adjust my content over here at Run Pure Sports. I'll make sure to get in Discord. We'll talk about it, but I'm not planning for it. That's my take on it. If I did have an option that was like, hey, he's good either way, it'd probably be like Bruce Brown and KCP. They'd be good either way, guys, but not, again, I'm not prioritizing them or putting them in my lineups. If we are looking for the Pat Connaughton pivots, yes, the Pelicans are a little bit healthier, right? They got Brandon Ingram there. They got CJ McCollum. Who are the options that we can consider? I think Najee Marshall at 4.8 is one you can consider. Herb Jones, we know they're going to need his defense at 4.2. He'll he'll be on the floor. If you think Valanciunas will have a hard time, well, Larry Nance is a great producer at 4.1K. I don't hate giving him a shot. So overall, I think you have to consider some of these wing guys, but they're not as great of plays as they were in the past. They do not have these 5K tags, but I think they are options that we need to consider here, and I am going to consider them as filler pieces instead of a guy like Pat Connaughton.
Great breakdown there. I can't have too much fun anymore. I don't want to get yelled at by K Falik and others. So you guys got the likes, 326. We appreciate it. If you haven't hit it, we appreciate it if you do. But we're going to get into the plays of the day. I will start with myself first with the SO play of the day. I'm not going to – I think I know where Mangone's going, so I'm not going to steal his. I'm going to go to the Knicks. A lower – he's not going to be low owned by any means, but not a Jalen Brunson, lower owned than that. Right in the middle, RJ Barrett, 7K on DK, 6.8K on FanDuel. I mean, give me these Knicks that I know are going to play 35 to 40 minutes. The ownership's not really there right now. It'll be 15% maybe, but on a 5-game slate like this, I think it makes a lot of sense, and he has a lot of upside that could break the slate. So give me 40-minute RJ Barrett as the SO play of the day. Let's go to
because I got two, so he won't steal one of mine, and I won't be mad about it.
All right, DC, the mom's basement play of the day. Who do you got?
Yeah, we'll stick with the Knicks. Not going to get 40 minutes, but I do like Isaiah Hartenstein quite a bit tonight, backup center. Going to play behind Jericho Sims, but I don't think their minutes should be projected all that differently from each other. And Hartenstein, I think, has paths to more minutes. Sims, obviously still a young player. You could just struggle, right? Hartenstein could steal his minutes that way. Foul trouble, injury, blowout. All those things, any of those things, I think would lead to more run from Hartenstein. You can be pretty sure he's going to get his 15-plus minutes regardless, and he's a decent fantasy producer when he's out there, especially against those Lakers backups. That's a good spot to be in going up against those guys. You got Westbrook, throwing up defensive rebound opportunities for you. So, yeah, Isaiah Hartenstein, mom's basement play of the day.
Love it. Very low-owned. Mom's basement play of the day. You can play anyone you want with Hartenstein. Go all the way to the basement. Love that. Mangone, I don't think he took your play. If you want to give the people two, you can. If you only want to give them one, you can. But who's the sweet Travis play of the day?
Yeah, I talked up two plays. So because I talked up two during the show, we'll just give them both out, right? I like the Ricky Rubio low-owned guy that you can go to. If you're worried to lock into Ricky Rubio, right, which I think is a good option at 3.2K, helps give you a completely different construction. Let's say you're looking for the Pat Connaughton pivot off of a team that is pretty chalky, but you just want that slight pivot off of him to fade him. Patrick Williams, right? I talked about him too. I think they're both really good value plays. Yes, Pat Williams is gaining some ownership. Rubio, not much, but I think you can play both those options. I think they're both really interesting values, and I think they both have some pretty good upside and won't totally destroy your lineups because Ricky Rubio is 3.2K, and Pat Williams is going to play a pile of minutes. And I agree with you, Title. You talked about this on the show. Grabbing guys that play minutes is never a bad idea on these slates, so something to think about too when building out your lineups.
Yeah, he was the other one. I was debating RJ Barrett and Patrick Williams. Two guys that are going to play a bunch of minutes that they'll get some ownership, but
Barrett's
not crazy right now.
We didn't talk enough about him. He's a pretty good player today. I'd love to hear what the Optalock show says about him later on.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to because I knew it was going to be one of those two. It's just if everyone's going Brunson or there's other places, I like these Knicks. Like we said, you get minutes. It's good on this slate. So we got Patrick Williams, Ricky Rubio, two Mangones plays, Isaiah Hartenstein for DC, RJ Barrett, the SO play of the day. Yes, Jay Burton, I'm on the FanDuel cash chart today. Mangone is on the DK cash chart.
We just got the Clippers news title. Morris out, Covington in, and Jackson in. So that is the news. Not a whole lot of value opening up, right? So hey, we're going to have to sit here and grind it out.
Yeah, that doesn't really help us too much. It looks like a slate, unless Jamal Murray news we get before lock. Looks like a slate. We won't have too much value. But up to lock, we'll cover that Clippers news. DC 15, if you're not a member, Run Pure Sports, get in the live show chat. They'll be on in 5 minutes. Can't be yelled at today, K Falik. That's going to do it for us, though. For Mangone, DC, I'm Titletown. Good luck, everybody.